What if I told you that the thing still quietly destroying your life as an empath isn't a toxic relationship, isn't a manipulative boss, isn't even a narcissist in your orbit, but something that happened to you before you were old enough to understand it? Stay with me, because what Carl Jung discovered about childhood wounds and the empathic psyche will fundamentally change how you see your entire past. Carl Jung said that the foundation of every adult personality is built in childhood. And for empaths, that foundation was constructed under conditions most people cannot even imagine. Not because their childhoods were necessarily violent or visibly traumatic, but because something far more subtle and far more damaging was happening beneath the surface. Here's what Jung understood that your parents, your teachers, and even most therapists completely missed. According to Carl Jung, the most devastating psychological injuries are not the ones that leave visible scars. They're the ones that happen so quietly, so consistently, and so early that the child doesn't even recognize them as wounds. They absorb them as identity. And here's where it gets painful. The empathic child doesn't just experience their own emotions, they experience everyone else's. They walk into a room and feel their mother's anxiety before a single word is spoken. They sense their father's disappointment like a physical weight on their chest. They register the tension between their parents that no one is acknowledging, and they carry it as if it belongs to them. But here's what Jung discovered that will absolutely stop you cold. No one told this child what was happening. No one explained that the heaviness they felt wasn't theirs. No one said, "You're not broken, you're just absorbing what the adults around you refuse to feel." And so the empathic child made a decision, an unconscious survival-level decision that would shape the next 20, 30, 40 years of their life. They decided that the pain they were feeling was their fault. They decided they were too much, and they began the long, devastating process of shrinking themselves to make the people around them comfortable. This is the first thing empaths need to forgive about their childhood, and it's only the beginning. Carl Jung identified a pattern he called premature psychological responsibility. It describes what happens when a child is forced to manage emotional dynamics that belong to the adults around them. The empathic child doesn't just witness dysfunction, they become its manager, its mediator, its emotional janitor. They learn to read the room before they learn to read books. They learn to regulate their parents' mood before they learn to regulate their own. They become so skilled at anticipating emotional danger that hypervigilance becomes their resting state. But here's what most people don't understand, and what Jung's research makes devastatingly clear. This isn't resilience, it's conscription. The child didn't volunteer for this role. They were drafted into it by a family system that needed someone to carry what the adults could not. And the hardest part? The child was praised for it. They were called mature, old soul, so responsible, so easy. And every compliment reinforced the cage. Every word of praise cemented the belief that their value was not in who they were, but in what they could carry for others. The mature empath must forgive themselves for accepting this role, not because they did something wrong, but because holding on to the guilt of being the family's emotional anchor is a weight that was never theirs to bear. But the next thing they need to forgive cuts even deeper, and most empaths have never even allowed themselves to think about it. According to Carl Jung, there is a concept he called the parental shadow, the unlived, unprocessed emotional material that parents unconsciously pass down to their children. Not through words, not through discipline, through atmosphere, through silence, through what was never said but always felt. And here's where it gets truly difficult. Most empathic children were not raised by monsters. They were raised by people who were themselves wounded, themselves unhealed, themselves operating from their own unintegrated shadows. Their parents weren't evil, they were unconscious. But Jung understood that unconsciousness is not innocence. A parent who cannot see their child's sensitivity because they've suppressed their own still causes damage. A parent who dismisses their child's emotional depth because they were taught that feelings are weakness still leaves scars. The intention doesn't erase the impact, and this is the forgiveness that breaks most empaths open. because it requires holding two truths simultaneously, what Jung called the tension of opposites. Your parents did their best, and their best still hurt you. They loved you in the only way they knew how, and that way was not enough for what you needed. Both of these things are true, and the mature empath must learn to hold them without choosing one over the other. Jung said that forgiveness is not the erasure of what happened. It's the refusal to let what happened continue to author your life. And that distinction changes everything. But here's the part that will absolutely redefine your relationship with your own history. Carl Jung observed that empathic children often experience what he called ontological displacement, a persistent, bone-deep feeling that they don't belong, not in their family, not in their school, not in the version of reality that everyone around them seems to accept without question. They see the cruelty that other children ignore. They feel the sadness that adults pretend isn't there. They ask questions that make people uncomfortable. And slowly, systematically, the world teaches them that their perception is the problem. This is perhaps the deepest wound of the empathic childhood. Not that they were hurt, but that they were made to doubt their own way of seeing. They were gaslit by an entire culture that told them the world they perceived, the emotional world, the felt world, the world beneath the surface, wasn't real. Jung called this the betrayal of perception, and he discovered that until an empath forgives the world for this betrayal, they will spend their entire adult life seeking external confirmation for what they already know internally. They will chase validation. They will over-explain, they will perform their sensitivity for people who will never understand it, hoping that someone, anyone, will finally say, yes, you were right all along. The mature empath forgives the world, not because the world deserves it, but because carrying the resentment of being perpetually unseen is a prison that only they hold the key to. According to Carl Jung, the most transformative act of forgiveness is not directed at others. It's directed inward. He called it the reconciliation with the abandoned self, the moment when someone finally turns back toward the child they were and says, I see you, I believe you, and I'm sorry I left you alone with all of that. This is what empaths need to forgive most about their childhood, not the parents who couldn't understand them, not the world that dismissed them, but themselves for abandoning their own truth in order to survive. The empathic child who learned to suppress their knowing, who trained themselves to doubt their perceptions, who spent years believing they were too sensitive, too emotional, too much, that child made the only choice available to them. And the adult empath must forgive themselves for making it. Jung said that healing is not about going back and changing the past. It's about going back and changing your relationship with it. The wound remains, but the story you tell about it transforms. It stops being evidence of your brokenness and becomes proof of your extraordinary capacity to endure. Carl Jung discovered that childhood is not just where we are shaped. It is where we are given the raw material for everything we will eventually become. For the empath, that raw material is heavier, sharper, more complex than most. But it is also richer, more textured, more luminous. The empath who forgives their childhood doesn't erase it. They alchemize it. They take the pain of being unseen and transform it into the gift of seeing others. They take the burden of carrying everyone's emotions and refine it into the ability to hold space without losing themselves. They take the loneliness of being different and transmute it into the sovereignty of knowing exactly who they are. This is what Jung called the opus, the great work of the psyche. And for the empath, it begins the moment they stop blaming their past and start reclaiming it, not as a wound, but as a foundation, not as something that broke them, but as the very thing that made them capable of a depth of compassion, understanding, and presence that most people will spend their entire lives searching for and never find. That is the power of forgiveness, and according to Carl Jung, it is the single most courageous act the human soul can perform.